Hey, what's going on everybody? My name's Boris, and in today's video, I want to go over 10 tips for beginners on PUBG playing on the Xbox. Now, I want to set a disclaimer right away in this video and say that I am no expert at this game. I'm not the best player in the world, and I'm certainly not even, one of the better players in the game, but I do have a lot of fun playing it, and I have learned quite a few things along the way, and so I thought maybe I'd share some of those things with you. Considering there are 3 million players currently and growing on Xbox, I figured there has to be a lot of newcomers, and they might be looking for something to help get them started. So I thought I'd go ahead and make a video explaining 10 tips for beginners when they're going through a match. We're going to start with number 1 at the beginning of the match and end with number 10, and hopefully that will allow you to enjoy the game a little bit more, become more familiar with what you should be doing at certain times during the game, and hopefully make it a better experience for you overall. So let's start off with number 1. As I'm sure everyone knows by now, the way that PUBG starts is all 100 players are flying along in a plane at a certain flight path, and everyone needs to jump out at some point during the flight to then go to the ground, loot, kill, and survive. Finding a few locations that you can land regularly so that you have a similar strategy every match is very important. Now for me personally, I like to land at Rozhuk, Yasnaya Polyana, and sometimes the houses near the prison, and all of this depends on the flight path of the plane. So depending on the flight path, you may find yourself unable to reach your favorite spot on the map. Therefore, you'll want to familiarize yourself with a few places on the map that you can always go to loot, kill, and survive the first zone. You'll want to become familiar with those places and always have a plan of action when you land. Now tip number 2 is very important. You always want to know what you're looking for when you're looting the first couple buildings that you go into. That way you're not spending a ton of time going through your inventory and figuring out what you actually have. It can be overwhelming going through a building and seeing any combination of attachments, healing, pistols, shotguns, SMGs, ARs, grenades. But if you know what to look for, it helps speed up the process a ton. First thing you want to do when you get in a building is find a gun as soon as possible. That way if somebody comes at you, you have something to defend yourself. Preferably you want to find a shotgun, SMG, or an AR, but a lot of times you'll only be left with a pistol right at the beginning, and then hopefully you can upgrade from there. After that, you want to be sure to find a backpack, a vest, and a helmet, and it's important to note that there are 3 tiers of each of those items, so level 1 will have the lowest quality of that item, and level 3 will have the highest. Picking up a backpack will allow you to carry a lot more inventory, and picking up a vest will also add to your inventory space. When you're going through some buildings, you want to scrounge up as much healing as you can, especially at first. Even if you see a ton of bandages and no boosts or first aid kits, you want to pick those up just in case you get into a fight and you're going to need them down the line. Also, if you do have a gun that can support attachments, you'll want to keep an eye out for those attachments. If you have a gun in mind that you're looking for and hoping for, you can maybe carry those attachments as well if you find them, even if you don't have the gun, but you want to keep an eye out on your inventory so it doesn't fill up. I know it's tempting to go ahead and just pick up everything you see off the ground, but that's going to kind of be a bad way to loot through the buildings because it's going to take you longer, and it's going to fill up your inventory pretty rapidly. Many of the items on the ground aren't applicable to the weapons that you have. Items such as ammo and attachments that don't fit with your particular guns that you have can just eat away at your inventory space and make it a lot harder to sort out your inventory and pick up things further down the line or even in the very next building. One of the biggest tips I can offer along the lines of looting is to push the start button, or what is called the menu button, on the Xbox One controller. The reason that this is so helpful is because if you just look at the items on the ground, there might be 3 or 4 items next to each other, and you push X to pick them up. A lot of times you're not going to pick up exactly what you want, so instead of picking up that gun that you're looking at, it might pick up the helmet that you already have, which is right next to it, or it might pick up a crowbar or something else. Whenever things are grouped tightly together, it's kind of hard to pick and choose which one you pick up manually. So what you want to do is push the start button, and then on the left side you'll see everything that's on the ground, and you'll be able to easily go through up and down and push X or A to put things in your inventory or equip them to your player. This is also extremely helpful for finding items on the ground that you might not even see because of the color of the ground or color of the item. Things might blend in and you might miss it completely if you didn't push the start button and see it that way. Alright, so moving on to tip number 3, circle awareness. Now I'd say a good number of players in a match don't even die from gunfire. A lot of them die to the play zone itself. So after landing, in about 5 minutes, you will have to move to the next designated circle that the game has provided, and as soon as you do land, you should be able to see pretty soon where that circle actually is going to end up. Now, due to the flight path of the plane, you might not be able to get to the center of the map to give yourself a better chance of getting wherever that circle is, so you might end up in one of the corners of the map and have to travel a very long distance to get to the first circle. You always need to know where the circle is and how long you have until you need to get there. There's a timer above the mini-map, and it'll tell you how long until the circle starts moving, and then from there, you can kind of gauge based off of how fast the circle's moving, how fast you need to get going. If you're currently in the circle, then you want to always keep an eye out for when it's going to move again. That way that you can check your map, make sure you're still in a safe space, and if not, maybe you'll be able to move ahead of time so that you're not one of the people that are running for the circle and are a prime target for people camping in the circle waiting for people to get there. Now with the randomness that is PUBG, you're going to have some games where you just feel like you're running the entire time chasing the circle and even being in the blue getting damaged the entire time, and it's going to feel like a pain because it's going to feel like a giant running simulator, but that's just part of the game. Sometimes you're going to have some bad luck and you're never going to actually be in the circle and you're going to have to keep moving the entire time. But having some circle awareness, finding out as soon as possible when you have to move, can help alleviate some of that. And finding vehicles also will definitely be a good thing. And that's actually going to be point number 4, is find a vehicle. If you can, even if you're in the circle, try and find a vehicle and keep it close by. That way you always have an escape plan. You always have some kind of transportation either to get to where you're going faster or get away from where you are faster. Hopefully you can find a vehicle near your drop point, and if not, you should be able to move along one of the roads when moving to the circle or moving to a new location, and vehicles spawn pretty regularly along the roads or even in certain garages and certain houses. Not only are these vehicles useful for getting where you're going, but they'll also provide a decent amount of cover in firefights, and they can actually be moving cover with you as you go through a match. Now, as far as the vehicles are concerned, I think I'd rank them in this order. So I like the Jeep or the UAZ first, just because of the amount of cover it provides and of how good it is on hills. Then the Dacia, because it's fast, although it's not as good off-road. Then I'll have the Buggy, which is very fast, very good off-road, but the amount of cover is not quite there. You can get shot out of that pretty easily. And then last and least, the motorcycle, because it's basically a death trap. If you make one wrong turn on that thing, you're going to flip. If you go too fast and hit a rock, you could potentially blow up, and you're pretty easy to shoot off of it because you have little to no cover at all. I think the motorcycle is basically for the crazy or desperate or just people that are really good at driving in this game. I'm quite not at that level yet, I guess. Tip number 5, don't fight in the blue or while running from the blue. So this is number 1006 on the list of things that can get you killed in PUBG, which is fighting in the blue. If you're running for the circle and see an enemy player, it's very tempting to take the shot and try and get the kill. But once you do that, your odds of surviving the run to safety plummet. Not only may you take damage in the fight that you're engaging in, but it also allows players that are around to hear where you're coming from. The best way to go about it is if you see someone running in front of you, unless they're directly in front of you, what you want to do is trail them at a safe distance and keep an eye on where they're going so that you can get a jump on them later on after you guys have gotten into the zone and healed up. Tip number 6, don't take too long looting a dead body. If you get a kill, it's very tempting to go take all the loot of your opponent as soon as you get it. But when other players hear the gunfire, they'll likely look in your direction, and looting a body can make you very vulnerable. If you're in a secure location like a building, go ahead and take your time and loot that body, but if you're in an open field, try and loot quickly so you don't get picked off. Now, tip number 7, you might see this a lot from other players, and you might have heard this before for sure, but you want to constantly be moving around. Don't ever stand still unless you're trying not to make any noise at all. If you aren't sure of your surroundings, or if you're looting someone in an open field, it's a good idea to keep moving back and forth at the same time, because even when you're in the menu option, when you push start, you can still use your left stick to move around so that you can't stand still and get picked off. It's a good idea to keep moving back and forth as much as possible, and it makes it much harder for someone to snipe you and end your match. Now, tip number 8 might be a little controversial to some players because of the current meta of the game, where cars are so prevalent in the final circle. But what I like to do is ditch my car once the circle gets pretty small, to kind of hide my position. I'm not a super aggressive player. I'm not going to get 10 kills in a game. That would be awesome if I could do that, but right now I'm lasting long in the game. I'm using my stealth skills, and this tip definitely helps me out. So once you get down to about 30 players left, the circle will probably be pretty small, and after you get to a safe enough area, it's a good idea to ditch your car and go to the rest of the way on foot, because you're going to be able to easily go from your location to where the circle is going to close on foot without taking damage from the blue. This will help you hide your position and let you get the jump on an unsuspecting player, because driving around in a car will just draw attention your way and likely get you killed. Even if you last longer into the match because you have a car for cover, it's going to be hard to actually win the match by just running people over the entire time. And now the cars take more damage, so they could get blown up in the process. Tip number 9, especially plays in the late game of the match. In the beginning of the match, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but when the circle is getting pretty close, you only want to take a shot if you think you can kill a player. Sound is very important in this game, and any shot you take gives away your position to someone. If you shoot at a player, make sure you know that you have a chance of hitting them, otherwise you're just exposing yourself for no reason. So taking any unnecessary risk won't help you succeed at all. You want to make sure that you have them lined up and you can take a few shots to finish them off. Otherwise you might have somebody sneaking up behind you because they just found out where you are because you took that shot and gave away your position. Alright, and finally, tip number 10 has nothing to do with the game, has nothing to do with gameplay, but it's try to remain positive. PUBG can be a very frustrating game, and at times the game can just completely screw you over. The RNG in this game sometimes is brutal. You might be running the entire time. You might find a whole bunch of stuff and then randomly die to some crap that happened, or you might even get picked off at the wrong time or just not see that player that's taking you down. But if you find yourself dying a lot or getting frustrated, maybe just take a break, try and find a new location to drop in, do something to change it up, that way you don't get easily frustrated. You'll definitely play better and have better results if you're calm and collected, and it's a lot of fun when you have success. And to have success, you need to have some luck, patience, and skill. It's not something that the normal player is going to succeed at all the time, because there are 100 players in the match, and it's very, very difficult to be that lone survivor. So that does it for the 10 tips that I would give for beginners on PUBG. I've played about 50 hours of the game so far, and I'm having a ton of fun. I do have 4 wins under my belt, so like I said, I'm not the best player in the world. I'm not even above average probably, but I do feel like I have enough experience in the game to kind of share my thoughts and share my opinions. This list certainly doesn't cover all the tips and tricks in PUBG, but it's just kind of a starting guide. With a little luck and persistence, you can have fun and succeed in this game. It's a ton of fun to play with friends. If you have somebody on your friends list that's also playing it, definitely check out duos or squads. It makes it even more fun. Sometimes solo can be really spooky and kind of deter you from wanting to play the game anymore. If you did enjoy this content, please click the like button. And if you would like more tips and tricks videos for PUBG on Xbox, subscribe and let me know in the comment section below. I have quite a few things I've learned while playing this game, and I'd love to share them with you. So if you do want more content like this, please let me know. But until next time, have a good one.